How's it going, everyone? And welcome to a only slightly late this time episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com with your favorite two show hosts, Ara Still.
And Rollicel, who are here to bring you another duo show while Fern is off having another vacation. Apparently, he mistimed something, so he was planning to be back in the hotel in time to join the show, but ended up changing plans. So, yeah, lucky for some. I haven't been on a vacation in 3 years,
Yeah,
but
what's a vacation? I'm in small business and the one in charge of everything. So
yeah, I guess that's the thing. If you go into business for yourself, technically speaking, you can take a vacation at any time. However, the consequences are dire.
the consequences are opossum.
Yeah, in your case, yes, you've got some special considerations, and I am still very much sick. I'm pretty sure that I've got chronic bronchitis because this is something that happens to me sort of like every year for a couple months almost. Um, though it's sort of a bit hard to say exactly whether or not I fall within the technical definition of chronic bronchitis, but
What is a technical definition in medicine these days?
well, so much of that industry is nothing more than oh, well, the sales rep from pharmaceutical company X told me that they've got this drug that treats disease X, so we're going to classify these things as disease X in order to sell the drugs.
They gave me a whole lot of money or sat me down and took me to a very nice dinner and said it was totes legit, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if they have it in the medical industry, but I, being in the position that I am, I need to know a bunch of stuff about my business's sort of corruption uh, countermeasures and that sort of thing, and like we actually have particular dollar values of things that we're allowed to accept. I can't remember what they are offhand, but it's something like there's an absolute cap of like €5 or something on the value of something you can receive as a gift from a sales rep or a client.
Oh yeah, I had to jump on the opossum's butt about that. He wanted to send out Christmas gifts to all our regular customers. I'm like, you don't want to do that because they might have those, and we don't know what their dollar values are. Like, just send them a card if you really want to send them something. Like, it's not the worst idea in the
I,
world, but we can't do that.
yeah, if you can send it to a business generally rather than addressing it to a particular person, sometimes it's all right because it's not going to any individual person. So, like, we have a number of suppliers that send us Christmas gifts, but it's like usually like a bunch of chocolate or something, like a box of chocolate type of thing, and that will just wind up in the break room and it doesn't go to any particular person.
Yeah,
So, that's usually fine.
but the problem is we don't know in the U.S. what those dollar values are for any given company, and it could vary depending on what type of business they technically are.
Yeah, some of them are like there are certain sectors where people whining and dining each other is sort of like considered a natural lubricant for business, and they'll have a high value of like, oh well, there's a cap of like 200 US on this or something. So you still can't receive a car, but you're not going to get in trouble because of a restaurant bill.
Yeah,
But
stop short of Ferraris.
other places don't want you accepting any gifts bigger than like a ballpoint pen.
Yeah, and there's just no way to tell without knowing that particular company's policy and calling to ask about it. So I told him just no, we'll send him a card. I'm sure he wanted to get him something weird too, like some packaged meats.
Is that a southern thing or
That is a thing they sell that seems to be uniquely regional, but nobody wants these.
well, like I like preserved meats like salami or
Yeah, like preserved in
because I mean
airtight vacuum seal.
I love me some salami and like I especially like putting chorizo in my cooking, but I don't think I've ever received any as a gift before. Occasionally you get them in like gift hampers. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
they have those. Yeah, you've got
Yeah,
those.
we call them gift baskets, but yeah, we got those.
Yeah, sometimes they'll have packaged meats as like one component of those, but the idea of just giving someone an assortment of preserved meat seems very odd to me.
This also seems very opossum.
I bet you he just like saw them in the store and he was thinking about them.
It was actually on Amazon, so I have no idea how he came to the conclusion this was a good idea. He might have got the idea from the store, I guess. But yeah,
Anyway,
medical
where
industry.
were we? We were here to bring you latest news and games commentary for the week, but first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server. Even to this very day, I have the impulse to say join us in the IRC channel. But you can get to the Discord server by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the show archive on YouTube.
Yeah, even when the show first started, did we ever use the IRC? We had it.
Yes, we did. We did, and we used it because there was a lot of like uh general VTW audience who would just loiter in the IRC for whichever show was going, and they didn't
Yeah.
really care. But I don't know, is IRC still a thing? Like I used to use it to. It used to be a major method for distribution of fan subbed anime way back when, before torrenting was really a thing, or when
Yeah.
torrenting was sort of in its infancy of popularity, because you know you need some kind of critical mass in order for torrenting to really work, and legacy anime tended not to have it. Only the seasonal stuff was supported by torrents back then because people didn't have the bandwidth to do seeding for no reason,
Hmm.
and so IRC was how you used to get that stuff.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember using it for stuff like that. I remember talking to random people and random IRCs all the time. It's just it kind of was just one of the aspects of the internet that moved on. First, it was replaced for me by voice chat with Ventrilo and TeamSpeak before that. I stopped really going into IRC when I started frequenting those, and then Discord acted as both. And in the interim, Steam DMs acted as the in between for people that wanted to send me messages and text.
There was a brief span of time where for me it was DC++, if you know that.
The name rings a bell, but it's not drawing anything to my brain.
It was basically a file distribution system where which had, you know, a chat window bolted onto it and chat channels and so on.
Yeah.
Um but that was like really, really heavily used in the university scene by students sharing files, and when I was in undergraduate.
I see. Yeah. So,
But the people in there tended to be like incredibly cringe. Like the sort of people nowadays who will very excitedly talk to each other about the latest Marvel movie type of thing. That
ah,
level of person.
that level of normie cringe. Got it.
Yeah, so they're not normies. They're not normies. They are like definitely on the geek end of the spectrum, but the very shallow kind that are like they are interested in geeky things because they're geeky things, not because they actually have a autistic fanatical interest in something,
Yeah,
but because they're trying to conform to a particular image.
they're in the kiddie pool for the nerds. They're not quite swimming with the sharks yet.
Yeah, like these days they would be, if they tried to involve themselves in a fandom, they would be referred to by most as tourists.
Yeah, I I always liked going in voice chat because you got all kinds of people in voice chat over IRC. IRC, you'd always get that type of
The
person.
mighty, but you got the mighty stoner.
Yeah, it's sometimes you'd pull a Miney Stoner, but sometimes you'd pull a Fern, and Fern's fun to talk to when Fern's not being murdered by drunk cowboys.
Yeah, well, you also would get Snapple Monkey.
That was hilarious. In the
Unintentionally on his part.
in retrospect, every bit of Snapple Monkey was accidental hilarity that he in no way intended to be.
Yeah, he was a lolcow. I don't think that he realized the extent to which he was a lolcow, but
His fate was sealed the moment he ran off the edge in the first boss of Blackwing Descent.
that would have just been something everybody forgot if he hadn't spent so long talking himself up first.
Yeah, like he had gone on and on and on for weeks before we took him to the raid, and he runs right off the edge.
I
Like,
mean, to be fair, you did the same thing in
yeah,
whatchamacallit, Copied Factory.
oh yeah, but I didn't spend weeks and weeks talking myself up to that group, and the whole group wanted to murder me, and I wanted to murder all of them, and then we were all murdered in turn by another group.
Did you step on a trap or just do an aggressive pull?
No, I stepped on a trap.
Okay.
We made friends.
I don't have any of my instant heals or anything, so
Yeah, I know, but the stuff here will fall over eventually. There we go. We're whittling it down.
do I have any?
I didn't even have to blow a potion. So
Yeah.
so yeah,
But,
but yeah, and remember the skin comes right off all him and his Brazilian ochres.
yeah. Even Octail was incredulous about that.
I have named one of our submarines in honor of the hilarity Snapple Monkey brought to mind, calling it Slap Chop. Because the skin comes right off. So
Anyway,
even the idiots you find in voice chat can turn out to be wonderful discoveries and make good memories, even if their intention is to try and look cool and they just fail spectacularly.
were we talking about something?
IRC chats and voice chat, and how you always want to say IRC chat.
Oh, right. That's why we were talking about that. Anyway, yeah. We don't have the IRC channel anymore. I don't know how we would get one if we wanted one, and I do not know if you still can.
I'm sure you can still set one up, but it's not worth the effort when Discord does what we need it to and better.
Yeah, until we get banned from it.
Oh yeah, we're getting banned
As
from it at some point.
Zerathus was talking about today.
It just when the robots start learning how to troll through servers and just police the content better, and they get more proactive about sending them out. Yeah, we're boned.
Yeah, we do have a dormant gilded server that we could switch to because that's a reasonably solid platform. I don't know how woke they are, but
yeah, and every single Discord member is still understanding instructions of should the Discord go down, the best place to figure out what the heck happened is to contact me via Steam. Just leave me an away message if I'm not online. I'll get to you when I get back. So yeah, speaking of robots, I was playing with the robots today. I installed one of the robots, one of the simple stable diffusion robots, because it was the easiest one that had the fewest install instructions. I made some fun things you may have seen on the show, like the starting soon page, which is Angry Cat Grill smashing at a keyboard on a laptop, and then you have our technical difficulties page, which is Angry Cat Grill pulling at a computer, and then we have this one, which is our placeholder on air one, because I can't get two cat grills for mine involves cat grill on an image without major gotcha coming into play on what characteristics go where. And you'll see the on break page when we inevitably go to a break. So the robots are good for making show assets. You know,
I expect that this is going to cause a great deal of rage amongst like though the people who normal had previously basically made their side hustle off of doing small amounts of commissioned art.
Yeah,
for things like this.
yeah, that and the booby artists are mad. Yeah, it's AI just is cheaper, easier, and better than what we can do. Otherwise, you're just getting the standard what we can Google and then MS Paint text dropped on it.
I just fed it into the Bing one, and you got Twin Tails. And my character got a significant upgrade in the chest region.
Yeah, yeah, its interpretation of breast sizes seems to be based on its latest trip to like whatever the current image hosting site is.
I'll send this one to you. I don't know if I want it to be public.
You got a significant upgrade in the thighs department.
Yeah, yeah. We're talking Yucca tier here.
Yeah, my character appears to have gotten a significant upgrade in the hips department. So yeah, managed to use that and find a checkpoint that's actually splits its not safe for work crap off onto an entirely different checkpoint. So you're not going to get anything interfering. Checkpoints are like the base data set that it uses for sampling its images. So finding one that split its not safe for work stuff off was harder than you'd think when you're
Well,
looking
the
for
thing is
anime
that
stuff.
it's probably filtering them after the fact, though, because if that were not the case, you wouldn't have to remove sensor bars all the time.
Yeah. So it's probably still got the whole data set that thing uses. It just tells it not to use these images or gives them a special flag. But yeah, you'll have characters fully clothed with in no sexual anything, just with a random sensor bar over their chest. If you're in the checkpoint I found. So yeah, uh, that's all the generic show technical silliness that we got going on here. What have you been doing for your week so far, other than being sick?
Um, let's see. So the bulk of my weekend I threw at Fate Samurai Remnant, and generally speaking, I have been thoroughly enjoying the entire process. I do, I do suffer from the same sort of baseline anxiety that I do in every video game about missing things because I've already missed some things. The the main thing that rustled my jimmies in that regard was that there's this side story that opens up quite early on about it appears to be focused on confronting Rogue Berserker. And if you try and do it, it warns you that it might be a bad idea, like as part of the plot. And so I took that as a hint. Oh, so this is probably not the narratively optimal time to do this. Later on, there's a another side story that crops up at a certain point in it, and if you try and advance the main plot, it says, please note that some side quests may become unavailable if you advance the story at this point. So I went and I did that side quest. And the thing is that the other one had disappeared and is now flagged as you missed your opportunity without ever sending me a warning message. And so I'm sort of a bit perplexed as to why that one was special. And I wonder if it's not like a branch point or something, because I've heard people say that there's probably multiple endings to this game early on. I've been avoiding spoilers, so I haven't looked at a lot of the other things people have said about it because, well, I don't want to be spoiled, so I'm being careful what I look at. But yeah, if there are multiple endings, maybe that's why that one disappeared without any kind of fanfare, because they were sort of uh avoiding forcing making it seem like it was a missable thing that needed to be forced. But yeah. um As far as the mechanics go, they've developed reasonably well for a Dynasty Warriors spin-off. Though I'm really finding the shell gauge system is a substantial burden to game pacing in terms of like the pace of combat. And my feeling about them is that you probably could have got away with it. Wait, what?
Found a horde somewhere.
Oh, okay. You probably could have gotten away with the shell gauge system if it was just for enemy servants, but when so many packs of monsters will have a monster with the shell gauge, it ends up just
Oh,
slowing the pace of combat outrageously.
is this
So
that thing that
the
makes
shell gauge
things
is,
take forever to die until it breaks?
yeah, it's the sort of the hyper armor that makes most of your attacks just glance until you break it. Now, in servant versus servant combat, that works perfectly fine because servants don't glance, they just don't do as much damage until the shell gauge is broken. But since most of the time you're not playing as a servant, you're playing as Yori, the master, you just can't hurt things a lot of the time in those fights, and it makes the fights really drag. It would, like I said, it would be fine if it was just servants because those are set piece fights. They're meant to take a long time. But the big monsters, it's like, oh, not this guy again. We just have to plow through that enormous health bar again. It's just it's becoming a very real frustration. It may be that there is just an optimal cheesy way to jib those shell gauges that I don't know about yet. But yeah, I think that the pace would have worked better without it, to put it bluntly. Story wise, I'm still quite content with it. It feels exactly like a Fate Stay Night game. Like it's pretty much does that perfectly. Which is really what it needed to do because that game didn't exist until Fate Samurai Remnant, and I feel like it all fits together very well. Um, it's I do have the impression that like for a Grail War, everybody's a little bit too buddy buddy with each other. Well, a lot of people are, but that in and of itself is sort of part and parcel of Fate Stay Night type stories. Like alliances get formed quite a bit, even though people should probably be treating each other with a bit more suspicion than they actually are. But yeah, it's I think that the whole thing plays out pretty well, but I just haven't had any time at all during the week to follow up on it after the weekend. Um, the story is quite engaging, and there's twists here and there, and identities of servants are still like most of them I haven't figured out yet. Amongst the ones that aren't like obvious inclusions from previous franchising trees. But yeah, it's just a bit. It's just I'm just running up against that eternal frustration of when there's a game you really want to play, but you don't have the time, and there's not really much I can do about that because work this week was really, really taxing because most of the staff seem to be sick right now. It's not just me. I, on the other hand, was still working despite my illness. Most people don't. Most people are perfectly content to not. So yeah. Um
Yeah, I don't get that part of people our age and younger where they just wanna where they just think they can't show up. Now, I've worked in small business for a decade now, pretty much. So me not showing up is kind of a big deal. We can't if I'm not there, things get handled badly, and that's going to weigh on me because
well, that
obviously,
was even true when you had more staff though.
yeah, like when you assume as much responsibility as we are like to do, uh, as we do, uh, it's just a fact of the matter is that we don't have the luxury of not showing up. So the whole idea of this just being a punch clock job when we voluntarily take that much responsibility, it doesn't sit quite right. Just if you just like, oh, I'll just punch out today and just not show up, well, that means there's just going to be more work later that we can't get away with from dealing with because we're in charge of it. And I don't know about
Yeah.
you, but I hate letting having work pile up on me.
I basically don't have a choice but to let work pile up on me. Like I try to avoid it, but the reality is that there's too many things that only I can do, and my time is too much demand for me not to let work pile up because I can only get so many things done in the day.
Yeah,
It's a it's a nuisance, but my job is significantly bigger than my predecessors' ones are, which is something that proceeds to go not acknowledged by anybody. Like I get a I suppose I get an acceptable salary given the extent to which the industry is underpaid. Um, I am still underpaid given how much work I do, but it could be worse, I suppose. Um, but yeah, so I haven't had much time after the weekend to play Fate Samurai Remnant. I got to put a good chunk of time in, but I haven't. I sort of stopped at that point, and there's other things that are sort of that would have preyed on my time if I'd had the time to do them. Like there's some stuff that I need to clean up on my to-do list on Blue Archive that I haven't had time for, and there's stuff in FGO that I want to do. Like I missed a whole bunch of quartz because I just didn't have time to play, and there were some limited time missions available that I just like when I just mathed it out. Look, I've got this much time, and this is not a high enough priority because for me, FGO, as I've mentioned before, is sort of in a maintenance mode for me. Like I'm not turning a huge amount of attention to it because my roster is sort of where it needs to be for the next year or two. And there's not really that many improvements that need to be made to it at this point. I can do most things. And considering I don't have time to sit down and do the really lengthy challenge quests anymore, I'm not worrying about building out my roster for those particular narrow purposes. So I
yeah,
basically don't need to think about it too much anymore.
you're not
And
you're not quite at the point I'm at where I'm only logging in for main story chapters and doing those in huge chunks. But you're not playing every event to clear the shop anymore.
well, I still clear the shop except for monuments most of the time if the event is new and not like really aggressively time hungry. But like you pretty much just skip Neurofest now because Neurofest is very play heavy because you've got they usually come in two parts. The lottery part, which is like you can invest as much time as you want in that, doing the dullest thing you can imagine, and the challenge quest part, which is much more engaging, but also like in sort of variably a time vampire. Like you don't know how many attempts it's going to take you to figure out a puzzle.
Yeah, it takes more brain in.
But yeah, I sort of only treat those things as though they ought to be taken seriously out of habit, though. Like I've never been in that position in Blue Archive. Like I barely even try to do the challenge quests associated with each event because most of them just require me to have more clipboards than I've got, basically.
Yeah, I do the first two, and I'm like, okay, we're good.
But like for instance, though, even though the rerun one that's currently running, like the
What's
third
wrong?
challenge quest, let's say, is it's just a kill some mobs in a stage one, but it's got it's level 75, and I don't have enough clipboards to have a team of level 75s, meaning that I will just run out of health before the end. So yeah, it's too much of a nuisance to figure out how to do it. Like I probably could, but it would take more time than I'm willing to put in, and I'm 99% just committed to the story of Blue Archive because I enjoy that very much. And while I do enjoy the gameplay, I don't enjoy the gameplay enough to like really struggle for hours on end the way. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Like it's a different kind of sort of molding and autism to clan battle. Like clan battle is something I never want to get engaged with, and that option has been taken away from me now. So,
I mean, I had fun with
um,
Clan Battle when I was just competing with Abo.
I'm talking about like really molding over it though.
Yeah.
Like the clans that take it seriously, seriously, seriously. Um, by contrast, it's a much more solitary affair in Blue Archive in terms of the raiding. But the people that are competing for platinum rank in the raids, they spend hours. They spend hours and hours. Like it's pretty common to talk about the sun coming up while you're working on them because clearing torment, like torment difficulty, is hard, like really hard. The number of people that have cleared torment, which one is it? Torment Bina, I think, is like a few hundred people worldwide.
Yeah, because the damage output is just nuts, right? On that one.
Well, everything about it is nuts, but that's one of the things. It's just really difficult. It's really, really difficult. I mean, that's what you want from a top end thing, right? Like, it is demonstrably possible because hundreds of people have done it, but it is demonstrably hard because only hundreds of people have done it. So, it's sort of where it needs to be for a capstone achievement. But, yeah, I'm not interested in that. That's not the life I want to lead, I'm afraid.
This is with its difficult content. I felt that now I did get into Pinecone at the perfect time, right before the limited banners started. So I had access to any limited I really wanted to go for because I was able to roll on all their banners if I wanted them. In Pinecone, so my roster was available the whole time I was playing that game. And when I finally got caught up to level cap and was able to do Tower of Luna, the highest Tower of Luna floor when it would come out would be, if I had the time when it was out. It wasn't often. I only did it a couple times, but it was fun to sit there and noodle out the boss and figure out a strat for them because they weren't easy, but they weren't super challenging. It's not like a 5+ hour brain buster. It's more like a 2.5 hour brain buster, like a challenge quest at Nerofest, except there's only one of them, and you don't have to hope for card RNG.
Well, the other thing though with Pinecone is it's functionally a one-dimensional auto battler. Just Blue Archive is not. Blue Archive has 2 dimensions of movement in addition to skill manipulation
Yeah,
and RNG. A lot of RNG.
yeah. We thought
That's hardly fair.
I was looking for the safety right when that popped, so I accidentally closed my window. So I forgot to lock it. I'm good at
But
video
I'm right at
games.
the edge of the room though. It's not fair.
But yeah,
But
but yeah, it was simpler, but it was still just you could brain bust yourself with this with your roster and solve the puzzle.
I can't even bring myself to genuinely attempt to fight Goz Extreme.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not.
Goz is hard enough as it is. My goodness.
I'll do level
Like
50
I
Gauss.
can.
I'm not doing the one above him. Screw that noise.
It still takes me 2 teams to do level 50 Goz.
I got Super Steroid Mika, and Super Steroid Mika fixes everything, even when it's a blue boss.
Yeah, I've been trying to do a more orthodox strategy, but being that I don't have my own Czech Yuka, it makes it kind of difficult because I would have enough DPS to go around if I had the clipboards to level Wakamo up, but I sort of just don't. So
Yeah, yeah, it's always it comes back to clipboards. I hit credit hell for a bit there.
I have been below 200 million like once. Like I only accrue credits very slowly, but I do accrue them. But
I'm so
yeah.
glad that track event just decided to vomit credits on us.
Yeah. Well, I like the Goz fight. Like I think it's quite engaging, but it's can be very frustrating, especially
You
if
have to be in
your
the
skills
mood to
just
really sit down and play Blue Archive if you want to noodle out the hardest difficulty you can do.
Yeah, and it takes time. It's rewarding when you do it. Like otherwise, you wouldn't have attempted on them for an appetizer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy. I enjoy the game. I enjoy the gameplay mechanics, but I don't necessarily want to go balls to the wall when it's like the end of a long day at work and I've got like, an hour to spend wasting time before I have to fall asleep.
No, and even then, the Fernipides thing I did with noodling that out was on a weekend after work before the show.
But yeah, in addition to those things, of course, the other thing that will be calling on my time shortly is the new patch for Final Fantasy 14, which I haven't until immediately before the show. I had not logged in once this week. I just haven't had the time. Um, I've been late at work all the time because of the number of people sick, drawing out the amount of time it takes to complete things. But yeah, I have not touched the story, I've not touched the dungeons, I've not touched the raid, but I'm sort of looking forward to participating in them. So,
I'll keep my mouth shut so I don't pre set your opinions on stuff. I don't want my influence to get in there.
so you've done everything already?
Yeah, I've done MSQ and I did uh I did the raid. And that's basically all there is.
Yeah, it has not. It has not. Star hasn't really been ascendant with the fan base this expansion. Like up to the finale of the MSQ as it was released, everybody was pretty happy with it, but people have more or less been categorically disappointed in it since then.
Yeah. It's just a patch without a whole lot of meat to it, like everything else with post content in Walker. Just, there ain't no meat on these bones.
Yeah, hopefully they can get their groove back the next expansion because it really seems to be they they lost their mojo because they were splitting their attention too far. Like even though there's no resources, attentional or otherwise, being divided now that 16 is out and will just be doing what probably DLC projects or whatever. Even though all the so forth, it's probably you just can't get back the momentum you didn't have.
Yeah, they've got to use a new expansion as a chance to reset it and fix it. Walker had a whole lot of potential to be really good. It just it didn't.
It was it was a difficult thing to do though in some sense to like really just end a story like that had been going on for so long because like basically there's only two ways you can do it, right? You can either end the story in the launch story or you can end the story at the end of the patch cycle for that expansion. If you had ended it at the if you had ended the launch story, if you had not ended it using the launch story like they did, I think that it would have just made people frustrated because there would be too many dangling plot threads. They were able to do it with Shadowbringers because there were more layers to the story. They weren't actually trying to pull together every thread simultaneously and tie them all up.
Yeah,
So they didn't have to worry about that level of frustration. But I think that uh, the way they did things, where the story is basically done, come the end of the launch campaign in MSQ, means everything after that is just kind of flapping loose. There's not really any way to avoid it.
yeah. The I'll save the story talk for my opinions on where they've been going until because you're this is the last patch. After you play through it, you'll have seen the end, and I think we'll be able to give a pretty good.
I thought this was just part one.
I don't think. And I think there's
They
this the pre setup for the next expansion, like they did with
oh, okay,
the
because
towers popping up
I
and
know
stuff.
that the manner in which they announced it was that they called this the whatever what is it, the 6.5 MSQ part one.
Yeah, there's the we have what I assume will be the equivalent of the towers popping up to prep to get you hyped for what's going to happen next expansion for the next MSQ in 5.5. But I don't.
Right.
They wrap up their story with the 13th, and that's pretty well done and dusted with only a few little threads that they've left open for stuff to maybe touch on later.
But the way you're speaking of it is already contaminating my point of view. Like, because now I'm anxious that everything is like incredibly disappointing.
Well, if I say nothing about it, and even tell you I'm going to say nothing about it, that still will color you one way. So
Yeah,
it's a
I'm not criticizing the tack you're taking. I'm just saying that there's not really any avoiding it because I was already apprehensive to begin with. Like for instance, I even after whatchamacallit, the first alliance raid, I was already really confused about how they can make a satisfying story given where they started, given the material. And so all of my anticipation of Thalea is colored by the fact that, like, I don't really understand what they're doing with that story or why it's there. So yeah, they've sort of got themselves in a position where I'm not really sure that they can clean up the mess that they've made in my head as far as the story is concerned, because I'm not really satisfied with the way anything has gone. Everything just feels like half of the meal and the other half is missing. So yeah, I'll just have to wait and see how it goes when I've got time to actually go in there and do the raid.
yep. So yeah, I'll hold my discussion when we get to my week as well about the Final Fantasy patch content, which ate the majority of my weekday free time this week. But I'm gonna hold it until you've had a chance to at least poke at it, and maybe Fern's made some progress on it too. Because I think that would be a good time for us to go over this expansion as a whole. I kind of want to
Which has
make a proper
basically
list.
has
Yeah,
been a debacle since the first patch. So
yeah.
yeah,
I would like to make a list of all the grievances I've had and see if there's anything that I've really liked in it that isn't called Eureka Orthos. Um,
I'm really a bit like, I don't know how to process Eureka Orthos because I enjoyed it, but I'm also not a deep dungeon person, and I feel like I'm being barraged on all sides by, like, if I consume any like FF14 media, I'm being barraged on all sides by opinions of how it's just a terrible piece of content, and I feel like I'm being gaslit by the rest of the community because I had fun in there. So
yeah, I have noticed some trends in the types of people that talk about it, and the types of people that get their opinions from certain people that talk about it. Um, I guess I can talk about this now instead of saving it for later. We'll probably rehash it though when we do go over everything. But basically, what I've observed is that there is a contingent of people that really like the way deep dungeons were, and they played them and got addicted to them because they were very heavily replayable pieces of content. That their random nature and the high auto attack damage and the sheer lethality and chance to just lose a run because of things was just all super appealing to them. You have that group. That's one of them. The next group you got is the influencers that are listening to these people because these people are the people that are going to make the most deep dungeon content because they're running it the most times. They know each one the deepest and know all the intricacies of them. So people are going to go to them and in turn give them views. So they're going to be the voice of deep dungeon. So you're not going to get a normal person's perspective from the usual commentary when it comes to deep dungeon. You're not going to get even somebody like me who's somewhere just a little bit above midcore when it comes to stuff like this, and just like I found soloing it hard and a rewarding experience, but perfectly doable. And I did enjoy that it was mechanically based, and as long as you knew what you were doing, you could probably get the clear. There was no RNG to stop you. I have not pushed a single cooldown while I've been talking. Uh,
Incidentally, though, on that note, I have noted that a lot of the people who are voicing opinions on the quality of Eureka Orthos. I feel like they've received that opinion from elsewhere, and that's not their opinion at all, because most of them don't seem like they're actually deep dungeon players.
Yeah.
Like they seem like they're like high end savage or ultimate raiders who, because like the way they classify uh doing solo runs of deep dungeon as casual content makes me think that they've never attempted it.
Yeah. It is something that takes quite a bit of brain power. And Eureka Orthos especially is a true endurance test of your ability to focus on one task and remember all aspects of it for hour-long chunks at a time, 10 times in a row. With the mechanics getting more and more intricate and harder the higher you go. The commentariat, however, most of them have not soloed it. A very small handful of the commentariat have even made attempts at soloing it. And the people that have done it with a group are going in there and having a more fun experience in general, I've seen, because the mechanically based trash and bosses in there that have very very unique and memorable fights are just more fun for causing shenanigans with your friends. And if you're doing deep dungeon with friends, you're going at it pretty casual. Like that definitely is what I would call casual content. But yeah, it's just not going to appeal to that demographic of people that's been doing deep dungeons forever. And most of the commentariat is just seems to be outsourcing their opinion from these guys. They have a few solid points about it that need improvement and working on. They stuff like the lethargy commander is a little too powerful for what it does. Storms in general, I think, is good. They seem to agree as well as a commander to use, and the risk reward for using it and needing to learn how to use it. The demi clones were pretty miss in that you just try to keep rolling for as many onion knights and durgas as you can and throwing away poor Uni because she don't. Why is Uni even in there in a dungeon where everything one shots you?
You guys are always so mean to Uni.
But overall, I think the mechanic based approach is a much better idea. Mechanically, the changes I think are all good. Lower auto attack damage so you don't feel as pressured to bring a healer. I think in general that's good. It means there's less chances for you just get bodied by RNG on the last few floors and just not be able to finish the run because of bad luck. Yeah, I I like the idea of being able to, if you put the time in and acquire the knowledge and ability to do something, you will get your stupid title. It's not like Palace of the Dead, where from floor 170 onward, 160 really onwards, you can just get screwed. There's about a 1 in 30 chance any particular floor in that pack will spawn and just have an unwinnable situation. And you may be able to blow all your resources to fix one or two of them. But you still need to somehow save enough to make it through the last few brutal floors. But that's not the case with Eureka Orthos. You go in there, and if you know what you're doing, if you remember what all the mobs do, if you remember what all the bosses do, if you go in there, even solo, you will get the clear. It is just a matter of testing your ability and your patience. And endurance content like that, I think, is fine. I think it's good, even. I like endurance content. Having endurance and the ability to do something is a skill set. Like, length matters when it comes to how long it takes to do something in a video game. And you can test people by their ability to endure, keep going. And Eureka Orthos does that. Now, I do think early on the health pools are a bit stupid for how fast the respawn rate is. Please don't do that again, Phoenix.
I don't know why they did it at all. It didn't seem like it accomplishes anything.
No. Like, I know the idea was... I know what probably happened, and they won't own up to it, is initially they were like, okay, we need people to level up in these floors, and these floors are going to be a bit easier, and probably had lower health pools initially, but when their design document got more and more focused mechanically around stuff, they just forgot the fact that the respawn time was set what it was when they cranked the mob's health up.
Seems like a pretty egregious oversight.
It just that's what it feels like in there. But yeah, I like Eureka Orthos. I could deal with a deep dungeon like that lasting me through a patch. It got me from 6.3 to 6.4. That was a fine piece of content that carried over a whole patch. But that was all in Walker Head. You know, even if I'm just playing tour guide in Eureka Orthos, it's still fun to go in there and just show people around and help people get their first few clears or work on their tiger or whatever. I still get loot out of it. I still get coffers. It's not like this where we're just mostly trying to run it to get as many time worn artifacts as we can. So I'm kind of blitzing us from floor to floor. But
I'm it just seems like Criterion was just such a waste of resources. Like they deployed it in such a sloppy way that, like, because they clearly put a lot of time and effort into those. Like you can see the love in them, but it's just a waste because it was not used correctly.
Paul is having fun playing with the robots, in case you're wondering.
I'm trying to do it sort of like live on one monitor while I'm playing on the other monitor.
The robots are addicting.
The robots are not very intelligent.
No, the robots don't know what a microphone is, apparently.
Well, I'm also doing it without ever having installed. Didn't install any program or anything. I'm using web-based ones. So
Yeah, I installed the Python-based Stable Diffusion, so I've got access to all the tools for it and all the potential add-ons if I really wanted to go retard with it. I'm a frog.
let's see.
So yeah, that one we can probably show on live show chat. Any of them that don't have certain things showing, or is there a flight in that one? Is that what was in that one? Yeah, flight.
I've got no. We cannot display this because it transgresses the content policy a few times.
Yeah. I don't have that problem with the installed one, thankfully. It lets you install whatever the heck you want. But what you call it? I think I've been using Civit AI, I think, because it has because it has a not safe for work off button. I'm really not interested in what kind of degeneracy people can come up with these things, because I imagine it can get pretty bad.
Yeah, so this week I'm expecting to be also a calamity at work because I expect there's still going to be people sick. Some people will have come back from leave, but I've got to somehow catch up on the disaster that was last week. You know, there's a lot of backlogged work to do. I'm in that position where I'm sort of like thinking with dread, will I ever get caught up at this point?
Yeah, that's not a fun headspace to be in, but sometimes it's unavoidable.
Yeah, there's just a lot of messes going on at the moment, and amongst the other things, it's bobby calf season, which I hate. And bobby calves are basically, for those that don't know, a class of calf that is, well, you know what veal is?
Yeah.
So bobby calves are a way of obtaining veal without needing to breed veal calves, because they're basically calves that are only a few days old, and therefore have not had any ability to develop the muscle tone that characterizes beef of an older age.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that the main way that you get bobby calves is you collect dead calves or newborn calves and then cull them very shortly after they're born, and this means that they are in a state of absolute filth. So all of the normal sorts of setups that you've got for doing monitoring of microbiology for the beef industry start to fall apart during bobby season because the abattoirs are bringing these really filthy carcasses in. So even if you've made all these assumptions, okay, so I can expect this sort of level of contamination from these carcasses, and this sort of level of contamination from the sheep, and this from the beef, and this from the pigs, and this from the goats, and this from the deer, etc., etc. Soon as you bring in bobby calves, suddenly everything skyrockets because they're dirty. They're very dirty, and this means that I've got a lot of work to do to make sure we can maintain compliance and not report alerts simply because our internal measurements got exceeded as opposed to the actual limits being exceeded. So yeah, that season happens whenever calving is happening, and it's spring. So yeah, I've got lots of crap to do at work. Oh goodness, another mimic really. But yeah, so I don't know how much free time I'm going to have this week either. We've got Labor Day coming up, which doesn't actually fall within my schedule, but I'm obliged by company policy for those who do not get Labor Day off because it's not a scheduled day for them. They are entitled to sort of a substitute day plus or minus 2 weeks from the date of the public holiday.
Mm-hmm.
This means that I have to schedule them all out for everybody in advance, and that means that there's lots of sort of pseudo unplanned days off that are going to suddenly be dumped into the roster. When somebody gets sick on top of that, and we're at an organization of the level where you get sort of like roughly 0.8 to 0.9 people are sick every day, suddenly that creates big pinches in the roster for certain jobs that need certain people. And yeah, so basically I'm anticipating another week that is going to be rough. So I don't know how much time I'm going to have.
And
But
Labor Day is always frustrating for me because it never seems like I can take it completely off. Like I could, it would be even reasonable a good chunk of days for me to take Labor Day completely off because nobody is going to call the office on Labor Day. But the problem is Labor Day usually just turns into catch up work day. Same thing with Memorial
yeah,
Day or any of those one off type holidays.
any of the ones that aren't a season in and of themselves, I suppose, are like that. But yeah, so I did watch a bunch of the new anime. However, I don't know how easy it will be to try and recall it all. Most of it was like continuations, I suppose, that I watched. Because I mean, I'm enjoying certain things that have been airing, and I'm happy to continue watching them. But hold on, I got distracted by what was going on my other monitor. Where's the map? I don't know where you are. There we go.
I'm at the exit. You trying to make us appear with the robots again?
No, I'm trying to find a list of the anime that are airing this season, so I can see which ones I actually watched and which ones I didn't. Um, there are certain ones that I just sort of skipped outright because they sounded really cringe. Um, I did watch. What did I watch last night? I watched The Family Circumstances of the Irregular Witch, which was a totally random selection. Um, it just seems to be sort of like your generic light comedy thing. So basically, it's a story of this witch. She's about 220 and change years old, and witches seem to be a sort of a pseudo species in this setting. Oh great, we've got lots of friends, and they look more or less like humans, but they are really long lived by comparison to humans. And she she's got a couple of childhood friends, and they all look like conventional adults, but she's just by chance, by natural variability, is aging a lot more slowly, and so she looks sort of like a young teen. But she's 220 odd years old, and she finds this child abandoned in the forest and decides she's going to raise it. And she raises it, and the child is now 16 years old. But unlike her, who's a late bloomer, her child is the opposite. So she's an extremely sheltered 16-year-old girl who happens to look like a sort of a voluptuous late 20s woman.
Oh no.
and but she's an incredibly clingy mama's girl. So when they're together in town, she's acting like a little child, but she looks like a fully grown woman, and her mother looks like a little child. So it's basically there's a lot of situational comedy that springs out of that, and so there's also all sorts of like weird crap that they've embedded in there, like the the child's quest to the child's called Viola, the mother's Alyssa. Viola's quest to get a familiar of her own, and she ends up summoning this. I'll call it a phoenix because they call it a phoenix, but it is commented on that it looks more like a doodle of a bird than an actual phoenix. But it's sort of hard to describe. It does not look like what you would normally envision from the word phoenix.
I'm imagining a rubber chicken.
It looks kind of like a rubber chicken, yeah. Except it's really, really large, and it speaks in a very deep, stately voice. But yeah, it's basically just a generic light shenanigans show. There's a lot of the first episodes is sort of devoted to reminiscing of the process of Alyssa raising Viola, despite not having a clue how to raise a child, and Viola's tendency to see basically anything as competition for her mother's love. So she refuses to get a cat as a familiar, for instance, because Alyssa really, really loves cats. They don't have a cat, but she loves cats, and Viola refuses to get one as a familiar because she thinks it'll take too much of her mother's attention away. And she approaches everything like this. Like there's sort of like this neighborhood merchant who's an elf, who's like 100 and change years old, and was sort of like the little brother figure to Alyssa growing up, but he's been pining over her for like 100 years. So he's got a huge crush on Alyssa, and Viola sees it as her mission in life to keep them apart, and basically comes up with as many situations which would be humiliating to the elf's dignity in Alyssa's presence as possible, to make sure that Alyssa will never see him as a romantic prospect.
I see.
So yeah, it's like I said, it's just a shenanigans show, but it's quite watchable, I suppose. What else? No, I skipped that one because it sounded cringe. I did watch the first episode of the second season of The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's more or less what I expected. It's just an isekai in the generic form, except the lead character is a female and has a harem of male Bishonen floating around instead of pretty girls. Helk's second season started, and Helk is really, it started off just being like an incredibly goofy slapstick exercise, but it has become a rather tense sort of affair. Sort of hard to describe, but it's made the metamorphosis in a sufficiently stealthy manner that I didn't really overtly see it happening. But it is certainly at the moment it seems to be focused on delving into Helk's backstory, but it's not like it's divested itself of all of the comedy or anything, but the sort of the drama and darker tone of it is sort of in first place this time as opposed to second place as we go into the second season. But yeah, it still has the same sort of flavor, and I quite like the characters. Like Helk is sort of like lovable with sort of a dark sort of core to him that you never really see, but there's clearly some trauma there, and and from management, that is to say, the demon lord, the demon general Vermilio, who is going by Anne from management because she's really bad at at lying and disguising herself. She is continuing to be her usual charming self, which is to say, I think that the sort of the gag character Pee Wee sums it up the best when he's writing his sort of like daily diary, and he says, "Today Anne had a lot of fun too, pretending to be annoyed by everything."
I see.
So she's definitely gets drawn into other people's pace, but is always trying to keep up a very dignified image of being annoyed by the goings on around her. I watched the first episode of, what is this called? It's got another horribly long name, and I'm going to get killed by Behemoth, aren't I? I'm giving the disgraced noble lady I rescued a crash course in naughtiness, which is not as perverted as it sounds. Basically,
I was about to say that sounds pretty bad.
it's not.
It sounds
I
like
think
the kind
it's
of thing
just
we're trying to avoid the AI from generating.
it's I'm not sure if it's a deliberate pun or a quirk of the translation, because there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are said by the lead character which you could sort of read as soft double entendre. Like, it's not strong double entendre. The way, like, sometimes somebody will say something that is clearly intended to be double entendre.
Like
But
polishing Hodier's helm.
Yeah. But while there's a lot of double entendre in the first episode, I don't think I would have perceived any of it as such if the series had not been named what it was. But yeah, if they had not chosen to use the word naughtiness in so many places, then basically none of it would seem like double entendre. But at any rate, it's basically about a noble girl who's been basically, well, she's a noble in name only. She was basically treated like a maid because she was a bastard child, but she was betrothed to some prince who was evidently not happy about it, and so she, in order for him to try and get out of the engagement, and dissolve the engagement, he framed her for treason and had her exiled and pursued by soldiers to be executed. But the lead guy is basically a misanthrope who hates dealing with other people, and so sort of lives as a semi-hermit out in the woods, and he's oh great, it's clipping meteor time. I need to do damage.
No,
And
wildfire will kill him.
And he basically he's a powerful magic user in his own right, but he's basically just a slob. And he happens across her and rescues her, and is basically he from the things he says, he basically implies that, well, he's been screwed in the past like that as well, been framed by somebody and betrayed, and so he takes pity on her and decides, oh, he's going to try and to basically give her a job, a safe place to stay, etc. And then he basically gradually finds out more about her sort of point of view in the world, which is that she's like moved to tears if anybody even shows the slightest amount of consideration for her, because she's basically treated miserably by her family. But he basically then is commits to entertaining himself by showing her all sort of like the great pleasures of life, like eating nice food and that she's never had before and that kind of thing. But basically, the show I can't really recommend because it is as bland as the premise makes it sound. There's just basically doesn't seem to be much going on here.
Unlike this room where there's quite a lot going on in here.
There are a lot of Waimura campers in there.
And they're on the exits right through the middle of them.
Yeah, so I watched the first episode of that, but frankly it wasn't that interesting, and it just feels like some kind of weird cringe wish fulfillment fantasy. I mean, that could describe a lot of anime, but it seems particularly bad in this one. What else? Next part of Jujutsu Kaisen is still going. It's it's Jujutsu Kaisen, it's your standard sort of power scaling shonen show. But I enjoy it for all that. Like it's got nice visual direction and so on, and it's just sort of generally quite enjoyable to watch. But there's not really much to write home about that. I'm enjoying it as one of the shonen shows for the current day, so it only really needs to do that properly to have accomplished its objective. Rising of the Shield Hero Season 3.
Giving it a few episodes in case we get turtled again.
Well, I mean, apparently the next one of the beasts to wake up is scheduled to be the Phoenix, but due to the goings on in the previous season, the awakening has been delayed by a few months, and now Fumi wants to use that to build up his territory's forces so that they're better prepared for it when it happens. The other 3 heroes appear to have exited stage left. Nobody seems to know where they are or what they're doing.
From what I read the light novels in the manga, they should be getting the arc dealing with them as characters should be coming up soon.
Well, maybe it will be sort of a retrospective one because currently the kingdom of Melromark is sort of in disarray because they just up and vanished while Naofumi was gone. They defended against one wave and then vanished. So yeah, and in the meantime, Naofumi is basically trying to find the various former members of Raftalia's village so that he can repopulate it with them. And unfortunately, this having become known has caused them to become a hot ticket item as slaves in the underworld, because he sort of popularized them as being a special kind of demi-human.
Raccoons in general, or people from her village?
Anybody from any slave that originates from Raftalia's village is now sort of like a sought after economic unit because that's got the shield hero's attention. So yeah, he's sort of
we need raising
having an unpleasant encounter with the burden of fame, I suppose. Let's see. It's really hasn't gotten going, so I don't really know what it's doing. They introduced the king as a hero as well, with very heavy inverted quotes around it. In the light novel, did they explore any more of his past and what the hell went on that he's so got a bug up his ass about?
I think I'd switched to the manga by then, and I don't remember the manga doing it.
Yeah, but at any rate, he's like introduced as being the staff hero or whatever, and appears to do nothing except get salty every time the shield hero is around. So yeah, I don't know. They haven't gotten off to a flying start, but it is season 3, so at this point that's kind of assuming that everybody knows what's going on already. Let's see, episode the season 2 of Goblin Slayer. I always look forward to Goblin Slayer. But again, that hasn't actually gotten off to a flying start as such. But they've introduced a new character, in this case being a bratty little magic user kid who is like a dead ringer for Negi from Maho Sensei Negima for whatever reason. Seems like an odd character to import, but okay. Who's basically a brat and would be one of those people who is destined to get, murdered by goblins in his first mission, were it not for the fact that he just by chance happens to bump into Goblin Slayer and his party mates, who happen to be present to knock him out of his smugness in so far as is possible. No, I haven't managed to do so really to a great extent, but Goblin Slayer seems to have decided to at least take him under his wing to some extent in order to prevent him meeting an early death for whatever reason. But he's the sort of kid who always shoots his mouth off without thinking and gets on everybody's bad side immediately because he thinks he's hot shit. So he's certainly not a likable character, at least not yet. Not sure where they're going with that, but it sounds like they've decided that their way to help Priestess grow is that she is now going to lead a party on a mission with a bunch of other rookies, and she is going to take this little brat along with her. She's not particularly sanguine about the idea of being a party leader, but I expect they're going to force her into it anyway. What else have we got? I think there was one other one that I watched, which was oh no, there's another couple. There's the next season of whatchamacallit, The Ancient Magus's Bride is out as well, which is them. They have been freshly sealed in their academy because they can't work out what's attacking the students, and so they want to put a barrier between the inside and the outside to make sure that they can rule at least one of them out. So so yeah, that's just going on in its usual way, where you don't know what the backstories are of anybody because there are too many characters all of a sudden, which is what happens when you suddenly move to a school setting when you have been living out in the countryside alone for all the rest of the time. What else? I watched one which had a really obtuse name. What was it? Something about Excalibur. Can't find it. Where is it? Still can't find it. I'm bad at this. It was not great. Whatever it was. I can't remember what it was called. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great, and it doesn't really show a lot of promise, I don't think, but it could change my mind, depending. Let's see, move along a page, see if I can find it on the other screen.
Apologies for the brief amount of lag you're going to get on the stream, folks. Having a few. OBS is trying to minimize itself to my taskbar and doesn't want to pop back up. There it is. Okay, we got it now.
The Demon Sword Master of Excalibur Academy. So it seems like a pretty bad show, but we'll see what it does. Basically, the Demon Lord loses in your classic Heroes versus Demon Lord scenario. So this is another Demon Lord becomes reincarnated a story, except it seems to be sort of like at least like 45% deconstruction. All of the usual stuff happens. Demon Lord moves to a different age after he's reincarnated and has, excessive power compared to the others in the setting. All the things you normally expect from this sort of pseudo isekai approach. Except in this case, he has not been around for 1,000 years, and when he is reincarnated, he is reincarnated as like a 10-year-old boy who is himself, but he was like a lich for the longest time before he died, and doesn't really remember much about being a meatbag.
Oh, I forgot how to poop.
So it's not so much that as he gets rescued out of the crystal thing that he's entombed in by a very attractive young woman, and he had completely forgotten puberty was a thing because he didn't have any glands for most of his career.
Oh, so he only knew how to bone with his literal bones.
I don't think he ever thought about boning at all.
Well, I mean, presumably he was all bones before if he was a lich.
Yeah. But at any rate, he's now got to deal with the fact that he has a flesh body with impulses which disgust him. And he basically doesn't know anything about the world. Like, he's still a powerful magic user with no real moral compass to speak of. But the world has moved on 1,000 years. Nobody remembers him or anything that went on before because it's just, ancient history nobody cares about. And like he doesn't really recognize any of the new high technology that they've got. The appearance of a human city is something that's totally alien to him. He doesn't really grasp what's going on there either. The sort of perils and enemies that humanity is facing, not things that he's ever heard of. Basically, it is functionally a total isekai because the world is just not as it was, and he doesn't really have any clue how he's going to proceed with his sort of like the mission that he was given by the goddess of rebellion before he went through the reincarnation ritual. On account of the world is just not the same. There's nothing that he can recognize. But yeah, the girl that he's a necromancer, so he can't use healing magic or anything. But the girl that rescues him dies protecting him, and right at the start of the story, and he's like, "Oh well, I mean, I'm kind of a big deal, and she did sacrifice herself for me, so I guess I should do something." But I can't heal people, so I guess I'll try and do the next best thing. And so it's sort of like implied that he's brought her back as an undead creature, but didn't tell anybody. And she doesn't know that she was killed. He's the only one that does. He's the only one that was there, the only one that saw it. And she thinks he's an wide-eyed, innocent 10-year-old child who has no idea of anything. So yeah, it could be that she is actually a horrific undead monster and doesn't know it at this point.
I still
But
am attached more to the Demon Lord who starts working at McDonald's.
yeah, well that show is over now.
Yeah, I know. It's just
Like
if we're gonna
it's
if we're gonna bring
seemed
the Demon Lord back and give him a new form. We've done the hot girlfriend, we've done the shy girlfriend, we've done little boy, we've done normal dude, and we got dude that works at McDonald's. And then we got same powerful dude, just also tiny with this new one.
yeah. Well, at any rate, they're doing a lot of these. Um, it seems to be an in thing right now. Now, amongst the other ones this season, I haven't watched a lot of them, but it seems like the Peggy Sue story is in this season as well. Which, for those that don't know, the terminology is a story where somebody gets shunted back in time and gets to do over things with the knowledge that they had from how things went the last time round. Um, there seem to be several this season that are that story. So, yeah, maybe that's going to be the next cancerous thing that occupies every season for the next 2 years or whatever. We're
Just
really unlucky.
it doesn't feel like it has the same staying power as Isekai. Like Isekai was sticky.
Well, you see, the thing is that it's essentially just a variant on isekai in terms of the way you tell the story and what you do. So it's probably just an extension of attempting to spin out the isekai trend a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff, but most of it doesn't look very good. And some of it looks a little bit cringe. A lot cringe, actually. But yeah,
Ooh,
I'll
there's a
probably
lot of
poke at a couple
cringes.
of others, but there's basically nothing new this season that really sticks out to me as, oh, well, this looks like it could be really good. Most of it is either a continuation of something else or it looks really cringe.
Why it gotta be so cringe, man? I'm raging.
He's raging out.
Yeah, we need the last palm we don't have any of. We need like three of them.
What are we missing?
The one that turns you to an angel, so I can kill the corpses of the dudes from the last boss.
Oh, right. I guess it's technically possible you could just not get any.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it without them. It's just a pain in the butt. Those things hit
Have you
hard.
ever done it without them?
Once, and it was quite painful. He has been made easier since then, so it may not be as bad, but I would still rather have them than not.
There's another rage here.
Oh, we can take it to
What
the
floor
next.
are we on? 86.
Yeah, we can take it to the next floor. This one's about to run out. There it goes. I think I saw a strong back there too that I want to pop.
Oh, there's 2 strong, so I just popped one of them.
I'll buy that rage and we'll
Alright, don't tell me when you want me to pop it.
doing a strong check because I was pretty sure I saw it out of grab.
Well, it's hard to tell with the amount of messages that can get buffered up.
Yeah, I know. There it is. All right, start making your way back.
I'm boldly running through the center of the room, safe in the knowledge that we've seen everything.
So yeah, this anime season.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad in any remarkable way. It doesn't. I haven't seen any true atrocities, but once more, there's just no real standouts.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's probably too much to expect that there be a standout every season, but yeah.
I would like to stand out once a year at least. I don't think that's too much to ask.
I think the isekai thing has just become too much of a tumor on the whole industry because we've been doing this shtick now for so very long. And what's more, I think there's also more VR MMO stories this season. It's like, how long have you guys been doing that one? Like, I know Sword Art Online wasn't the first one. Most people prefer to credit .hack as being the first one, but it became a phenomenon due to the breakout success of Sword Art Online, and we have seen precious little else ever since.
Yep.
You gonna rage out?
Nah, I'll save it for the next floor. Like 2 worms left here. Yeah, it's just I have not been interested in seasonal anime since for a long time now. I've
Realistically, watching it for me is only a habit. It's not really something that I think is particularly important in any way.
strong.
Where was that rage?
Be right next to the teleporter. Right. A altered and affluent floor. I don't know if you can shield the Manticore.
Resolution.
Got one.
Another rage.
Not a very fat floor, so we can take it.
Yeah, and Serethus is voicing the opinion that we should be on the tail end because of the increasing in deconstructions. But I don't know. I don't know. The thing with these is that the way that you can tell that they're running out is the total unwillingness of anybody in the production business to acknowledge that they're running out.
Yeah, we've also called a whole lot of things that are the sign of the trend waning, and it just hadn't happened. You can restrong.
Yeah, well, just because the trend is waning amongst the people that watch anime habitually doesn't actually mean that it's actually waning, and we also don't have the temperature of a large portion of the player base. Like I normally take pains to avoid watching the avoid looking at the comments on sites like Bob's, but I happened to by accident yesterday, and in the discussion under some random, I don't even know what anime the comments were under because I didn't try and look at it, but they were talking about like an incredibly banal isekai anime from last season and talking about how great it was. And it's just like, for me, it was like, does not compute. Does not compute. What they're saying does not compute. Like, because it was just it was a normal, inoffensive, mediocre isekai. There was really nothing to comment about it. So I was really bewildered that they were talking about it like it was pretty good. When, I wouldn't have called it pretty good. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. So there's clearly still a non-negligible appetite for this content.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what will actually cause it to finally peter out. I don't know whether I don't know if it's going to matter whether they're in a state of like sort of fatigue and wind down or not, because I think that usually the way this goes is that something will come and take over as the next phenomenon, which puts an end to the current phenomenon when there's a better bandwagon to hop on, rather than, oh well, people aren't responding as strongly to this genre anymore, therefore we should stop. No, and they don't usually enter sort of exploratory phases. They just usually they will see one of the corollary things will take off, and then they'll focus on that instead. Because you got to remember, there was still lots of residual moe floating around when Sword Art Online went big.
Yeah.
But you don't see any of that moe crap anymore. It doesn't happen anymore. It's basically gone extinct. I don't remember what this one does. Is this the one where you've got to knock bombs around, or is that a different boss?
You gotta knock the red bombs into him, and you gotta, just before other type of bomb. Yeah, just don't use any AoEs. Scholar. Oh, he's in a good spot anyway. Oh shoot! Did I just ricochet the bomb away?
We're dying. What have you done? Keep running away from me. You're never going to get healed like this.
Oh, you gotta kill the red ones. You knock the blue ones into him. Right. I got my colors backwards. Can you tell I'm paying attention? I've done this guy so many times. You'd think I'd have this figured out by now. Oop, that ricochet button. Bomb's in a good spot.
I need this to be over. I have to go to the bathroom.
Yep. He's almost dead. Duty complete. To the exit room. We will wait till we go to the next floor until after the break. You get a lot of green tones for doing this. But yeah.
I'm at 1896 poetics.
So
yeah, I need to go to the bathroom. Please let us go to a break.
All right, folks. We will be back in just a bit. So, no music for you because I'm not Fern and I don't have that in the rig yet. And I need to get some music to put in the rig. But we'll be back in just a bit. And we're back. I like my on break screen. I think the robot did good with that one. It took like 100 attempts to get that one too. While we were on break, we were dumping poetics, and Vault continued to play with the robot and see. Uh, I'm not sure what you're experimenting with it on, but
I'm just reseeding it over and over again. So most of the inputs are very similar, but it's sort of interesting seeing what variations there are between the very similar pictures.
yeah. Have you tried playing with weights yet, or does it let you play with weights on the Bing one?
I haven't attempted to because it requires more attention than I've got. I don't know what tools you're actually able to play with on the web one,
Yeah,
since it's somewhat simplified.
in the Stable Diffusion prompt, the way it works is any prompt tag you put in parentheses gets a weight multiplier of 1.05 by default, but you can override that default weight by putting a colon and a number after the colon to give it a new multiplier to give it different weights. So like my default for ones I think are really important for whatever I want it to do, I usually give 1.1. So like if I have the Makode tag in there, I would put that 1.1. So I wanted to show cat grills. There, I have yet to have any of the checkpoints need help by saying girl, woman, or whatever with Makode. It just knows if you're trying to make AI art with a Makode, you only want the girls. Because
Well,
apparent,
yeah, I mean, when they introduced bunny boys, cat boys went extinct. So
so yeah. So we were at anime for your week, and we're an hour and a half and some change into the show. Hour and 45
yeah,
actually.
so you can do a week then. I basically ran out of steam as far as talking is concerned.
All right. Most of my week is only stuff you can lightly comment on anyway. So we'll do the weekend first because it kind of continues what we've been talking about a little bit. Today on a whim, I just installed the robots and started goofing around with them because the robots are fun. They're a cute toy at the moment. They're not terrifying yet.
Well, at least not in the conventional way.
Yeah, they can still liquefy your characters. So like I downloaded a little helper Laura for making Estelle from Trails in the Sky, and had her in funny poses. And I made cat grills with Mikodes because we're always playing Final Fantasy, and I wanted to figure out how to get those to generate. And yeah, just goofing around with it and seeing what it can do and what all the tools are and how it works. Because there's so much AI meme art that's coming out lately. I've noticed, like the smoke detector one you sent me earlier today. That'll definitely get us banned if we post that on the Discord. Um, I've seen that one before this week, and I've seen several others. This week seemed loaded with AI memes, and while that's interesting, I really wanted to see what the nuts and bolts were behind this, and how the prompting system works, and how the checkpoints and all the guides they call Laura's and something else work with it to get it to work, and how negative prompt embedding works and all that, and just to understand it a bit better, to know what these robots are actually trying to do. And it was an interesting experiment, and it's a fun tool to have as a toy, and or as like a splash art generator or something for the show. But you know, we got a few years before it becomes horrifying. I think we're still just we're still at Neurosama tier, but there it just the sense of creeping dread is there in the background when we won't be at Neurosama tier anymore with the robots, and they won't just be for funny memes, and people are going to start using them to replace jobs and for nefarious purposes to lie to people. You know, so so that's the robots. Uh, so you've seen some of the splashes I've generated from the show. I might make more for more special shows, or maybe just a few for the general show for when I'm running it, because it's just takes a few hundred attempts to get something that doesn't look like it's liquefied or missing hands or ears or the tail's backwards, or Ball gets an upgrade in measurements somewhere. So so that's that for the robots. Pivoting from the robots slightly, Vol actually watched me play a good chunk of Liza P that I played this week.
I watched you play a good chunk of a single fight where you got teabagged over and over again.
Well, that's a pretty standard way those fights go in Liza P and in this franchise and subgenre in general. Is you go into the boss fight and you get creamed, and you see some of his attacks, and your first attempt in there, you're just making token attempts to block what you can, and mostly just see what the attacks are. And then on subsequent attempts as you go in, you learn more and more and more of the attack patterns until it just clicks with you and you know enough to make it fall over dead. But the boss I fought was the green monster in the swamp, or the puppet devouring monster, or something. It was not the most creative name in the world. But it was a good fight. It was a two phaser with two radically different phases that had a fairly chunky health pool, but not super chunky. And I did him with a heavy weapon, right? Yeah, a heavy weapon. So it was well
It was
technically
dexterity weapon that was really slow.
yeah the slowest dexterity weapon. And yeah, I got him in the end. Took about hour and a half, something like that. The level before him was cut short quite hard though, which was odd, and it just seems like a bunch of that level must have got cut because it was filled with a bunch of low health enemies in very small confined areas, and it was also clearly meant to be the Poison Swamp / Blighttown level, which is normally quite a big level, but no, it was just not. So his level not so good. His boss fight himself perfectly fine though. I had a good time learning that boss. Did come down to a really tense okay, he's doing one attack I've only blocked like twice before. I've got to block it to get this to get to kill this attempt, and managed to get it though, which was nice. There's the resolutions. Okay, we can stop obsessing about chess now. We can just leave. So yeah, that's where I got Liza P going into the week. I only did one more stage approximately, and one more boss during the week because most of my week's free time went into the Final Fantasy 14 patch that I'm not going to talk about. Not yet anyway. So we did. I did the next section, which was the furries raid the hotel. I don't really care about spoiling Liza P. Nobody's playing Liza P for the story. Um, the furries attack the hotel where all the people live that are not furries. You are betrayed by the one furry that you bring to the hotel to be the vendor for boss weapons, and
Serves you right.
you have the
Trusting a
opportunity.
furry.
You finally get the opportunity just to shank him at the end of that, which I did, and got a nice quest reward for it too. Got a cryptic vessel from him that led to an ending reward with the girl that was talking up all the rumors of this dude and how great he must be as a person. Oh, you got a private message from him. Let me see. Oh, he must have been great. And you can lie to her or tell her the truth, and you apparently get different music records depending on whether you lie or tell her the truth. You get nothing if you let him live. The only solution to make progress towards 100% of the game is to kill the furry.
Well, I mean, that just seems normal, really.
Yeah, you get literally nothing for letting him live. So, so yeah. But leading up to him, after the attack on the hotel, the people Geppetto gets gone from the hotel. He's not there anymore, and he's somewhere else. And so you gotta go find him again. And he's gone to the big bad, definitely final dungeon of the game. And the only way to get there is through a secret passage in the hotel that the furries used to invade it the first time. And so they open the secret door for you, and you go underground, and it's a big underground area that's well, it's not really big. It's actually kind of small, but it leads to a rematch with the Gank boss fight, the one that has multiple dudes. And this time, the way it worked the first time, the elder brother would start the fight alone. His three compadres would jump up and watch from the rafters. And at preset points in the fight, they would at health percentages of the boss. One new one would jump down and come help fight, so you could manage it easier. This one is actually easier because it just starts with all three of them in the all three of the little brothers first instead of the big brother. So it just starts as a triple gank fight, but they have a gimmick that makes it really easy to manage, and that they have a bunch of new attacks each one does, and they don't hit a lot harder, but they have a whole lot more tricks to learn to block, and each one comes with their own unique elemental debuff they can apply or status effect they can apply. And whichever one buffs their weapon with their unique status effect is going to hyper aggro on you, no matter what. And it's going to chase you around the entire arena. But the other two will just sit there unless you get close to them. So all you got to do is keep your distance from the two that are not engaged and engage the one that is engaged, while dodging the very occasional ranged attack from the other two. The one that buffs his sword with fire, however, has a grappling hook that can pull you close to him, so he can do a single melee combo, but just let yourself get hit by it, because the grapple hook does basically no damage, and roll away from him, and go back to fighting whatever one you were fighting. And once you kill two of them, the big brother will spawn. But because you can control this by just getting one low and then letting its weapon buff run out, so the other one will buff, you can get it in one-shot range and then just go kill his buddy, and then just go tap him while the big brother's coming in, and then you've got a one-on-one boss fight with just a souped-up version of a boss you've already learned. So, not super interesting, but I was reading the comments on Fextra Life because I was curious about something when I noticed the gimmick to
Really?
this.
Fixture life?
Yes, and I went there specifically on purpose for the comment section. Now, as bad as Fextra Life is, their comment section is somehow worse. And I wanted to know what, in general, the people are complaining about on this boss. And sure enough, they were talking about how this was the hardest boss in the game because all the enemies would just aggro in a gank fest and destroy you. You know what they were doing? They were summoning the Spectre, the extra help ghost, to get an extra player in the fight, like they had been for all the other boss fights. But if you do it in this boss fight, the AI is going to make your dumb buddy go run right into the middle of all of them. And remember what I told you before, the two that aren't engaged in combat with you don't attack you unless you get close. But because
none of these people know how to play these games without constantly summoning. So
yeah, well, the summon in Liza P, the last patch buffed it quite a bit, but not enough to make it like mimic tier busted. But it's still easy mode. But it dramatically increases the health of the boss if you summon one, which is going to leave you with a conundrum. You have to have the most perfect DPS race phase 1 to minimize damage to your Spectre. So going into the harder phase 2, because almost every single boss is a two-phase fight in this game. If you summon them that way. But what's realistically going to happen is you're going to go in there with the Spectre, you're going to fumble around a lot, the Spectre's going to draw aggro off you and mess up your block timing, and the boss is going to have more HP in total, so the harder phase now lasts longer. And I think a big part of the reason, because learning how to do perfect parries, yeah, that's a little tough, but it's doable. You can learn that. That's nothing out of the ordinary that we've been asked to do in this type of game before. But I think a lot of the complaints about difficulty is because the Spectre just is going to not be the I win button it normally is because of the things I mentioned above, and I think people are just using it, especially the contingent that came in with Elden Ring, and are like, "Oh, what do you mean? This game's so hard." It's because the Spectre throws off your block timing and extends the harder part of the fight. It might actually be easier on a good chunk of bosses if you just get good and don't use the Spectre.
What
It,
makes you think any of them are even attempting to block?
I mean, you could get away with hit and run poke strategy. You're just gonna be there forever on a lot of these bosses.
Yeah, but you have to think about what they were doing in Elden Ring. Like, what was necessary to do when you had these summons? Not very much. Not very much interacting with the game mechanics was required.
Yeah. So there's a rage over there. Can you go get near the chest so I can turn to a manticore and go march it? Okay, you can grab it. But yeah, it's it was an interesting read through. So I think I've only got the final dungeon and the final stint of bosses left. The game isn't too long, despite what my playtime will tell you, because most of that is waiting on the stupid tree to grow fruit. But yeah, it's been a fun ride. I'll have more my final conclusions on that probably next week. Um, I do have tax season coming up. Manticore don't care about no silence. Manticore is also out of juice.
Strength.
Strong. So so yeah, I'll probably have it finished this week. And
Are you planning on doing any subsequent playthroughs?
maybe I'll at least poke at New Game Plus. But I don't know if I'll go for Platy or do the multiplayer run. We will see. It is a good enough game to
I,
warrant one. I just right now, especially, is a bad time for me because we're in the big tax season coming up, where I have to sit down and pull all nighters coming up real soon. Like I could start it. I'm going to start prep work for it next week, and any day where I don't get swamped, it may become that day at work. So my time is variable, and several of those days are just unaccounted for. Though which of those days they are, I have no idea because I can't sit down and do Mega Tax Day on a day when I've got customers calling out my butt all day long. But prep work will be done for it next week, no matter what, because the factory is doing inventory next week, which means all work at the factory is stopped, which means I only have to deal with quotations. I cannot do orders. I cannot do order status tracking. I can't do any of the normal crap that I have to do with the factory for shipping or whatever. They're closed. So yeah, that's coming up, and then I'll have the mega tax season coming up, and that I hate the federal government. I've re-listened to Monster Hunter a month ahead of time in prep, a month or two, well, 2 months ahead of time in preparation for this coming day. I really don't like the government. So, well,
have you seen the meme that's been it goes around regularly, but the one on which 3-letter agency would you get rid of if you could only choose one?
no, I haven't seen this one. I don't think.
I couldn't tell you offhand what it is, but it was like you can choose one of these.
The
You can
IRS is
choose
the
one of
number
these.
one.
You can choose IRS, CIA, FBI, ATF. Like there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, IRS is the number one. As long as you then make a rule that says nothing can come up in its place. So I'd be happy with just a reprieve if we could just delete them for a bit.
Did the speaker ever follow through on the claim that they were going to get rid of the massive extra funding for?
Nope.
Nope.
Offered it as a bill and then sacrificed it to get the rest of the bill through. So
Man, you guys need to make Donald Trump the Speaker of the House.
yeah,
Do it.
I fully support this decision if a miracle can happen. I'm not holding out hope, but
I mean, I can just sort of, I can see it in my mind's eye. Him in the speaker's chair, sort of smiling smugly down at the Democrats and rhinos, and just how much they would be shitting their pants in apoplectic fury.
oh man, I would set up a committee as speaker with him. Just throw MTG and Gates and all his biggest supporters on there, just to have them call in Hunter and Nancy and everybody. You know what?
There's a lot of dudes in there, bruh.
Mm-hmm. I might need some heals. That's a lot of them that aggroed.
You're taking damage way too fast. Way too fast. I was not able to get a single heal off. I don't know which one of these is... No, I'm toast.
That's okay.
I was like, one is witching? Which one is witching? It's the one with 3 nipples. Everyone knows witches have 3 nipples.
Oh, I'm alive. You actually got the res off. I didn't think you got the res off in time.
I didn't get the res off. We had a raisin going.
Oh. Oh, no.
Why have you done this?
Yeah, I had totally forgot we had a raising. I was looking at OBS. Oh, okay. Well, it happens.
You scuffed us on 97.
It happens. This is why we do this kind of stuff. Oh, might as well shoot that one in the face. Delete that save data.
How embarrassing.
Yep, this is what happens when I do 2 things at once, folks. So yeah. Well, just again from floor whatever. Oh, not floor 1. Don't accept that. Wrong button. In fact, now you gotta. Well, maybe we can. Yeah, we gotta reset that accidental plot I made. Tell me when you're ready.
Okay.
So many confirmation windows you gotta go through. And, like, you want to go with a party? Are you sure you want to go with a fixed undersized party? Okay, which
Are you
type?
sure? You absolutely sure, confident that you really, really want to do this right now?
Yeah, like, do you want? Like, yes, I clicked all the buttons. I'm here for a reason. And then, like, which floor would you like to start on? Floor 1 or floor 51? It's the very last one. So yeah. The government, not a fan. Going to be dealing with them for the next few weeks. I may be incommunicado completely. We'll have to see. I may have a few days because I'm not going to start a day of taxes when I've been swamped at work that day. I'll need a slight break. So I'm giving myself. This is why I've given myself the entire second half of the month to do this. So I can hopefully fish out a few days because I got to sit down and I don't like keeping QuickBooks updated throughout the year. It's too much of a pain in the butt on top of everything else I've got to do. Like, I just don't have the time for it. So
I've never used any kind of accounting software, so I have no idea what it entails.
we don't need to go palm hunting until we get to about floor 75. So yeah, it's a pain in the butt. You have to manually enter every single transaction that goes through the accounts for your business, and then you've got to reconcile those books with the bank account, and then you got to send that up to the CPA. It's just a bunch of data entry that's garbage. I'll have to block a day off for that. I'd much rather do it all at once so that I can keep track of it easier. And the harder part is breaking out the Amex cards and what the F the opossum has thought is a business expense.
DLC.
Yeah, that'll probably be a whole nother day by itself. And then after that, there is all the general gathering of documents, your W-9s, W-2s for all employees, all the employers' ones, getting in contact with the CPA, finding out anything special they need, gathering your tax records for the year that you paid in sales tax. It just goes on and never stops. Like when you're finally done, you don't even have a chance to feel a sense of relief because when you get everything together and think you're good to go, what you do is I call the CPA and I'm like, okay, I got all the stuff. I need you to take a look at it and get it all together and send it off to the government. And I won't hear back from the CPA unless one, there's something wrong with it, or two, it's gone through everything at the slowest Christmas government and is now good to go, and your little booklet for your records is in the mail. So until that booklet shows up, which won't be until late December, early January, I don't get to breathe a sigh of relief on taxes. So yeah, just a colossal pain in the rear. My condolences to fellow people that have to do small company bookkeeping and the like. I feel your pain, and we'll be feeling it all next week, and the week after, and probably the week after that. Because there's always surprises too that you don't account for that wind up eating entire days. Plus, I'm putting PSN charges on the company credit card. So yeah, that's the thing. Speaking of the opossum, though, he decided to go waste his own money. Thankfully, not the company's. I checked, and I did check because I didn't believe him when he said he spent his own money. On just randomly buying a PlayStation 5. And so he's been asking me, "Hey, what's some good games I can get on the PlayStation?" While I'm sitting there working, he's in there trying to download good games for PlayStation. You have no idea just how close I've come to popping an aneurysm every time I hear that.
Does he
Actually,
realize he's actually got a job to do, or is he completely oblivious to this?
to prove my point here, because he wouldn't shut up about it, I made him a list of pictures. I just went to Metacritic because I was too busy to do anything else. Drew an X through every VR game I saw and put stars around next to games I knew he might play. I'll dump it in live show chat. Yes, the list is real. And I put an exclamation point next to it if it has an issue. And I didn't catch everything. It's not even all the games I would recommend on there. It's not all the games that have issues, but it was just a quick and dirty list, so he would shut the hell up. Made it in MS Paint in like 10 minutes. So yeah, that's the thing. Stupid gremlin. But yeah. So, the other media I had this week. There was a lot of driving, not very far, but a lot of locations this week at work. Uh, Usually around Atlanta, so not too far of a drive, but it's an hour and a half in the car every time I have to make a trip like that at minimum. So I got a lot of audiobook progress done. So since we already been talking about Monster Hunter and the government, we can do that one first. And it's honestly the less interesting of the two. So the new Monster Hunter Memoirs book came out, and this one, for people that don't know Monster Hunter, the Monster Hunter International series, Larry Correia's book series about a bunch of people that find out monsters are real, and the government is trying to keep it hush hush, but still pays out bounties on the monsters because they don't have the manpower to do it themselves. So we follow the ongoings of a company based out of Arizona that employs people that have had experiences with monsters and trains them up to be professional monster killers. And it's a fairly typical action urban fantasy story for the most part, in all its entries, with a bit of cosmic horror thrown in occasionally, just mix it up and give the protagonist something really big to blow up.
Or to keep as a pet.
Yeah, or if you're Julie, keep Mr. Trashbags as a pet. We'll come back to Mr. Trashbags. Mr. Trashbags being the pet shuggoth of the protagonist and his wife that used to be her childhood friend who she called Mr. Trashbags. She thought he was an imaginary friend. He was not. This is the type of book series this is. So, it generally is a fun time and has a whole lot of very anti-government sentiment, which after doing taxes for a small business, you will be very in favor of. So, um, I'm not super duper into Larry Correia's writing in general for just he himself, but the Monster Hunter
Is he
series is
the is he the one that did a series where the premise was based on a bet that he couldn't do a series with a premise that ridiculous?
that was Jim Butcher. He did the Codex
Oh.
Alera because of Pokemon and the Roman Legion. And I don't even think it was a bet. I think just somebody told him on his forums he couldn't do it. So yeah. The only two novel series I really like at Correia's are Monster Hunter, the mainline series, and his Grim Noir series. The Grim Noir being set in an alternate 1920s, where 20 years before humanity awakened to magic that is functionally superpowers. So yeah, those are the only two book series of his that I really, really follow. Larry himself is okay in interviews, at least. He's a bit of a tard on Twitter and Facebook, and makes me cringe a lot when I read his stuff.
Yeah,
But
he seems like a pretty standard normie con,
yeah,
even if he's a Mormon.
but yeah, he has a ton of series though that he works on. The boy's always putting out books. He doesn't have the Jim Butcher problem. Who finally,
You can't ever criticize him of not working hard enough. He's not George R. R. Martin.
yeah, and Butcher did just put out another novel for the Cinderspires, so he's doing Dresden next, I think. But he said Cinderspires book 2 was the book after Battleground that he was going to do, and he gave us a novella that was 2 hours in audiobook length in the meantime. So Butcher's been making it up now that alimony is not a problem. But yeah, so Larry's in general a good author. Not my favorite, but a good author, and one I'll regularly pick up, at least give a cursory look to. He also, in the Monster Hunter universe, has a sub-series called Monster Hunter Memoirs. And the first three were all about the exploits of Oliver Chadwick Gardenier.
Every time you say that name, it sounds like you're talking about a parody story.
Yes. So Chad is a lady killer who can get any woman he wants, just like his dad, because he is super smart, super strong, has a samurai sword, and can kill called Mono-kin, that he can kill all the monsters that normally take gazillions of rounds of ammunition. And he has the gift of tongues. Oh, and he actually died in Beirut when he was a Marine and met St. Peter at the gate and got a mission from God to go hunt monsters. Chad is
Sounds like bad fan fiction.
Yeah, Chad is a interesting character you will only like out of morbid fascination for how ridiculous can a conservative Mary Sue get. And the answer is more ridiculous than you think every time you think you hit peak. And just because Chad is so dumb as a character, you can derive some enjoyment just wondering how far they're going to take Chad. It's like just going through the memoir series and going, okay, yeah, Chad hasn't banged at least 3 girls and it's been 5 minutes. Okay, what's happening now? Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's the type of caliber of the memoirs series. The memoirs series has another quirk, and that all the memoirs books are co-written by another author. And for the memoirs involving Chad, the co-author was John Ringo, the guy who's credited as coining the phrase "get woke, go broke." So you can see why he made Chad.
No, I can't see why he made Chad.
Well, He's
The world didn't need Chad.
the world did not need Chad. But unfortunately, Chad's daughter has made an appearance in the main series now. So while the books are still skippable, he had a kid. So yeah, this memoir series seems to be going in a better direction than Chad. This one is about a Mexican girl or a girl with Mexican heritage who is introduced as an agent of the Israeli military secret service. Not secret service. They're special ops. They're Marines basically,
All right.
and she goes on a mission, and right off out the gate, you're told that she is not a normal human. She's like only one other member of MHI, and is also at least part monster. Although she was born with it, she's not. She didn't get cursed later like the other member. But she went through the rigmarole of getting her puff exemption, so the government can't. So you can't shoot her and collect a bounty from the government. And she's proven she can control herself. So she accidentally murders a crew member when they force her to turn into her monster form. When they're on a mission with the in Egypt, and so she gets deported, basically to sweep it under the rug, and sent back to America and joins Monster Hunter International, and has to take up leading a brand new team they're setting up in California, right as California is becoming modern California, just after the 70s. So it's a better character and a better premise than Chad, but
Still sounds a little bit Mary Sue to me.
yeah, she's just got "I'm the special one" written all over me, and unless something happens where she loses control again and just goes and causes all kinds of problems, it's not sitting super good. Because in addition to all her other stuff, they write off her ability to just know things as she's super experienced because she ages slower, and that felt like the biggest cop out in the world because it was. Oh, I can't use items. I wonder why I can't potion. So, oh, we actually don't need a clear in there. So yeah, better than Chad, but not the best. It's not mainline series. I like Owen. Owen, the protagonist of the main series, is oh, you gotta do it on here. Like Owen is just a dude. He is a chosen one of many chosen ones. So he doesn't feel as
But he's got that gun.
yeah, but that's because Milo likes him, and Milo's crazy. Milo being the resident mad scientist. He got another one that is for longer range from Milo for when he can't take abominations places.
What's that one called?
Cazador.
That's not as cool a name.
No, he named it after a place in Alabama. So yeah, Owen's good, and Larry writes the main series books, and you can tell the quality difference. These memoir series seem very much like a chance to give lesser known authors a chance to get their feet in with an established series to give them a shot and get their name on the map a little bit. I'm not sure if that's their explicit purpose, but that's what it seems to be. The actual storytelling in this one is much better than the other memoirs, because this one's story has entirely been about the woes of setting up a new Monster Hunter team in California, where their MHI didn't have anybody before. The company that handled the contracts out there was not part of MHI, and they are not there anymore for reasons they haven't expanded on yet. And so MHI has come to fill the hole. And so they're setting up a brand new team from scratch with a few experienced members coming to take some of the leadership positions, and a bunch of rookies. And they got about 7 people there. just going through the rigmarole of learning how every character works with all the other characters, learning each character's strengths and character traits, and how to work with each other as a team, and all that works really good. All that is fine storytelling, and very interesting for the universe they're setting up. It's I just don't give a crap about our little Mexican Jewish convert, not actual Jew, but Jewish convert Mexican girl who has like half monster god blood or something. If it stays focused on the team building aspect, I'll probably give the book a recommend with a big ol' asterisk next to it, and that has to do with the audiobook. Now, for once, I have been very happy in a Monster Hunter book that the number of male characters seems to dwindle as time goes on, because the the reader they got for this book, you know how when you're going through an audiobook, when to distinguish characters' voices, the reader will usually put on an accent or a different inflection or even a bit of a voice, if to give the impression this is somebody else, this is a different speaker, so that he doesn't so that it's clear who he's talking as when he's speaking. This girl they got to narrate this book because the protagonist is female and it's first person, so they got a girl to do it. But it's not the same girl that did Guardian. No, it is some new girl, and she cannot do a male voice to save her life. Like, Earl Harbinger sounds like Mr. Trashbags from the other reader levels of bad. Like, she just, okay, guys. That's like her Earl voice. It's just nails on a chalkboard awful. And I think she was trying to get across the point he smokes a lot, but Earl kind of has a quirk that makes smoking not particularly dangerous to him. So he wouldn't have a very raspy voice. And the main reader for the main series, Oliver Wyman, does a great job with all characters. He can even do girls' voices fine. He's a great performer, and in general seems to be good friends with Larry because he narrates a lot of his books. But this new girl, her male voices are terrible, and she only has two girl voices: normal girl and ditzy girl, which makes the girls very hard to distinguish when more than two are in a scene. Her performance is just bad. And there's no beating around that bush. Like, it is going, if you are one who prefers to listen to audiobooks, this is going to be a struggle session. All right, I don't have to kite it. I have a healer. So yeah, that's where I'm at on that book. I'm about halfway through it, a little less than halfway. Get clipped by the something.
Maybe, don't really know.
I think your toe was in the circle. But yeah. So yeah, Larry's been chilling this book nonstop, as usual when he has a new book release, and it's better than Chad. I'll give it that is probably an objectively true statement, but that ain't hard. Because Chad's kind of a meme. Unless you just are a diehard series fan that will take absolutely anything from it, Chad is a meme. Because Chad is so dumb. So hopefully they make something work with this. I really like the team building stuff, but I'll come back with a full report next week and see if we get a little too off in the weeds with why this girl is special, and if they do go that route, how well they manage. So we'll see. The more interesting book series to talk about. I had to start from the beginning, so I'm only a little bit past where I got to last time. There were only 2 books out last time when I checked in on it. Was a series I talked about on the show several years ago when I was just looking for an audiobook to read, called that I picked on a whim just from its description because it sounded ridiculous. Called Super Sales on Superheroes. The way the series works, you have the protagonist Felix Campbell. In a world where superpowers and magic and the mystic have all awakened many years before the start of the story, things have gone to pot and villains have taken territory and just own certain cities now. And the Heroes Guild is effectively defunct. The heroes have lost. It's GG no re for the heroes, and people are trying to make do in this new world that's kind of not super great. There's pockets of standard civilization, but the villains have strong footholds in a lot of places. That's not really the focus of the story, though. That's the backdrop to set up the world. The real focus is on Felix, who awakened to powers and was one of the lucky ones that did, because they're not super duper common. And his power initially seems pretty useless to him. He has the power to modify anything he owns. The problem is, it comes with a budget, in that he can visualize the amount of modification modification juice he has left every day via a numerical value, because his power will interpret it in a way his brain can process it. You find out why later. He's having help. But it's not enough points initially for him to do really anything with. So he decides to buy some bismuth or something from an illegal vendor on the street, and wants to try and slowly convert it to gold by breaking it up into pieces and see if he can sell that to get some money to get him out of the financial slump he's in, because he's currently working at the equivalent of McDonald's. What he actually does is he buys the almost corpses of 3 ex-superheroes who have been captured by the villain of the city and tortured to a point of they can't do anything anymore. They're just torsos in boxes with a head still attached and barely alive. So Felix has accidentally bought them and they are put into a slave contract with him. So he now has them as slaves, even though they're functionally dead. And so he got them on the cheap. He didn't mean to buy them, but he did. And he finds out that the more people he owns with powers, he can draw their power from them to lower their power output and increase his point value, and he can modify all the people he owns too. And this premise is just as stupid and ridiculous as it sounds, and continues to get more and more ridiculous.
Sounds like a stock standard isekai hero power.
Yeah. So imagine that. Now stick it with a Western writer, and also give him the harem trope that doesn't come into play until about the 3rd book.
Well, I mean, I didn't say an isekai, so
yeah. So he gets to do that. The quirk here is this is all about him using this to build a functioning communal business in this world, so that he can have a place to live that isn't run by the current corrupt governments or the supervillains around. And everything is framed about how all these girls are magically able to fill a niche inside his company that he's going to use to acquire more funds, to get more slaves, to get more power to build up this company. So he can.
Well, that happens in every isekai too. So
Yeah. It just, the way it's presented in a novel format from a Western author is so weird. It just comes off as, what's the word I'm looking for to describe? Not off-putting, because you're just curious to see how big of a train wreck this thing can keep getting, because it just becomes more and more of a train, like most isekais. But the premise just keeps spiraling out of control as he gets more and more OP, because it's always girls. More and more OP girls in his harem. that he can draw powers from, to a point at the start of the fourth book. They just have to make a hard cut and say, okay, you need to go on an expedition to a literal new world and go literally isekai yourself to go reestablish Legion outposts over there from scratch, and you can only take 3 of them with you.
So this is like the sequel to the original game where they have to depower you because you leveled up to 99.
Yeah. So that comes in book 4. And I cannot explain in good words why this story just sits so weird with me, and why that makes me morbidly curious to figure out where it goes. Because I just want to see how bad this story can get, basically. It's not good.
That's the psychology behind like 90% of the anime I watch.
Yeah, it's not good at all. It's quite terrible, actually. Like the whole books, you're not going to get anything from this book series. You're not even going to really have fun with it. You're just here for the ride to see where this ride's going. And I had put it off for a while because it doesn't really stick in your brain. And he had put out 3 new books since then. So there's now up to book 5, and I think book 6 is coming out like at the end of the month. So I will probably keep it on in the background just to see where it goes, because I'm always looking for new audiobooks to put on in the background, and I like the narrator for this one a lot. That's part of the reason it's such an easy listen, even though it's so dumb. So I'll probably be giving intermittent reports on how dumb it gets as I continue my way through the series. It will entirely depend on how much driving I have to do, because my audiobook listening is directly proportional to how long I have to spend in my car. So yeah, that's that piece of media. And other than that, I don't really have any other media to really harp on about. So, we did not. I checked before the show. I'm not going to check during the show because while my rig is more powerful now with a better internet connection, I don't want to jinx it. So I'm not going to tempt fate by touching anything. But yeah, we did not have an email. So we do have a few new segments I threw in there just to be time fillers, but we're pretty good on time. We do have still a few floors left, so we might as well go through the newslets I've got while we make it to the boss. So, pull them up. Bear with me, folks. I misplaced my show host thing. Right. Let's full screen this so I can see what I'm doing. And just open all of these so I have them handy. So, none of these are particularly meaty, but we can go through them. The first one I threw in here for Vaul, Fate Samurai Remnant wasn't a total bust financially.
Thank goodness. It doesn't deserve to be a total bust either. Like, it's more or less like laying aside the sort of the fan things. It's a reasonably good sort of single A to double A game. Like, it's just pretty solid at what it's attempting to do. And provided that you go in with an understanding that it's the Muso spin-off and has all of the baggage that Muso has, there's really nothing particularly worrisome about it, other than the fact that the technology level looks like it's from a PS2. Like, it's pretty decent. And of course, having such mediocre graphics, it will run on a toaster.
Yeah. So yeah, it sold 300,000 copies, and that's apparently enough to get it financially successful. Because I can't imagine they had a whole lot of budget for this game.
No. It's made in a very systematic way where they are able to reuse a lot of material throughout the course of the game.
Yeah.
And since it is set in Edo, it's there's not like a huge number of different textures. Like it's not set in a fantasy world where there's heaps of variation and that sort of thing. No, it's set in a real world setting where there was the only building materials were wood and paper and cloth, sort of thing. So
Yeah. So yeah,
and,
I I don't have a whole lot else to add to it. I just kind of threw that in there because I figured you'd want to talk more about Fate. Any chance you got?
well, I'm glad that it was successful. I'm glad that it's gotten sort of recognition as being a decent game because, frankly, they needed one. Like there's just been there's not really been any evidence that you can really be that successful making a Fate game
Mm-hmm.
until now, because most of the time they were always trying to take the easiest route possible.
Doors open.
Yeah, but there's a horde over here.
Okay. Hi, Dippy. Oh, there's a wyvern in the wall. Why is he in the wall? Wall wyver? Why are you such a wall wyver? Oh yeah. All right. That's story number one. Uh, story number two. Uh, once again, Telltale Games is having layoffs. After they died, got brought back, they are now dying again. Their stuff their stuff
For
has
some
been delayed
reason,
yet again.
when they have troubles, I don't have any basis for this, but I just sort of assume the business has been run badly.
Yeah. Like
It just seems like the sort of development studio where they're going to be impractical. They're
yeah.
going to be impractically auteur about everything.
Yeah, well,
They're more likely to have a company bar than to make payroll.
while voice acting could put a dent in their budget, uh there really ain't a whole lot asset wise going on in their games that should take a whole lot of cash. So
I don't know. Maybe they're paying like an irrationally high amount to license IPs or something.
possible. Yeah, they've got some big ones. Well, they got a couple big ones. They got The Walking Dead and they got Borderlands, and they got some.
Do they still have Borderlands?
I don't know if they have it anymore. I know they made a sequel, but I'm not sure what
Didn't
the.
they also have Batman?
Yeah, I think they got that one too. So it might be a case of them just getting feeling themselves a bit too much and overcommitting on IPs. But even that'd be expensive. But yeah, I'm not sure with them. But yeah, they're having layoffs. All their projects are delayed. The the works happening all over again. I feel like they did die, right? They got brought back after dying, didn't they?
Well, I thought that they were already dead until the story came out, so I presume that must be the case.
Yeah, I was under the impression they died and got brought back, but I wasn't sure if I was crazy because so many companies are yo-yoing all over the place in their current status. So we'll just where did go? Oh, he died. So yeah, after we kill Dippy, I will check the next newslet. So silenced. Oh, that means I'm going to worry about traps. All right, next. Diablo 4 is coming to Steam. Mostly put this in here because Serathis mentioned it. I
Yeah. Look who's come crawling back.
barely any time after release for a Blizzard game. It's now on third-party distribution platforms. That should really tell you the financial state Blizzard's in right now after their recent catastrophes.
Well, it's a Diablo game. It should not, under in normal circumstances, have been as much of a non-event when it came out as it was.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the press surrounding their microtransaction behavior has just followed them around like a bad smell, and it always was going to after their Diablo Immortal debacle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not to mention the Diablo Immortal debacle itself, uh, and the issues it caused with just the bad name that stained the franchise with. Like that just put a nasty smell on it for a lot of people, us included. I think where we pretty much with that we were significantly less likely to give Diablo a shot after that if Diablo 3 didn't already do enough damage.
Yeah, Diablo 3 was mediocre enough that it made me lukewarm on the franchise as a whole, and then the Diablo 2's uglifying of the characters sort of dealt another blow to it.
Oh, the man
So
Mazon.
yeah, Fern's math teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad.
Like they just keep doing things wrong all the time.
Yeah. I still don't believe for a second all this talk about how great Dragonflight is. Like people say that, but I don't believe you.
I don't think they do either.
Like you're
If
telling
they
me,
really believed that, if they really believed it was as great as they have been saying, they would not be so excited that Metzen is back.
yeah, like he's walking into a mess. I don't know what he could possibly pull out of his butt.
Or he's having his "I can fix her" moment.
Yeah, I think he's gonna realize this bitch just be cray cray. Time to put her down. So yeah, I'm gonna skip over the relink story I linked because it's kind of a nothing story. I
Yeah, it
just
doesn't really say anything about it.
I
It's,
just
oh, it's got pretty art, therefore it took a long time to make and stuff.
I was mostly gonna
Yeah,
throw it in there to laugh at their excuse, but oh, there's a fortune in this one too. But yeah, not a whole lot to do there. The other one I haven't followed super deeply, but is a little more interesting because I can get mad at the Devil May Cry guy again. So, new Castlevania series continues to have new seasons and spin-offs on Netflix, and the current one is getting blasted.
yeah. I've seen woke people on the Twitter who would normally be perfectly cool with the sort of messaging, saying that they're just sort of generally disappointed in the quality of the current season.
Yeah, it's a lot of it has to do with their treatment of the main characters, uh, in general, from what I've seen, and the Belmonts in a franchise about the Belmonts is is not representing the Belmonts well at all, and the Belmonts are just butt monkeys basically, and with a character commenting, some of course some probably girl, although the art style these days makes it hard to tell. Um, it, that's of high melanin count with dreads, saying that Belmont boy is useless as f, and
Beep.
yeah, and the this was tweeted out as a screen cap by the Castlevania official Twitter account for the Netflix spinoff show, and with the note, no matter what the timeline, the Belmonts stay getting humbled by their magic companions, and this didn't go over well. It got so bad that the director uh, made a made a pretty sharp comment at their marketing team, saying, "I'm too busy working on the show to have to stop and come out here and deal with the fumbles of my own marketing team." Which cool for him, I guess. He's still a tool that allows this stuff to happen.
Yeah, well, his concern is it's making him look bad.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the Belmonts either.
Yeah. So and this is the guy they're giving Devil May Cry to. Like, I'm hurt deep inside just
I'm
thinking about it.
surprised. I shouldn't be, but I'm sort of surprised that Capcom didn't learn their lesson about giving Devil May Cry away.
Yeah,
Like you already tried this once before. You've already tried to allow it to be reimagined by somebody, and you saw what happened.
yeah, like you got magic in a bottle with Dante, and the dynamic he has. You got magic in a bottle with Nero, for that matter, and Virgil, and all the other side characters, Lady Trish, all of them. If you try to change those characters, that magic is gone. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. Um, I'm just every time I see a new story pop up, and there's been a lot of people not happy with the current Castlevania season. I've seen at least 3 articles pop up on my feeds at different times throughout the last 2 weeks of people complaining about it, which is very surprising. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. And I think that is pretty much everything that we got for the show. I can have the generic show talking splash image that the robot spit out.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that is worth mentioning. Did I see anything this week? I don't think I really did.
Yeah, it was kind of a slowish news week. That's why you just got the big blast of whatever I found like 4 hours before the show. Nothing really jumped out to me. I was mostly following the Speaker of the House drama in the U.S. and getting
Yeah,
a big old kick out of that.
and all the people who are mad about it.
Yeah, when the people I don't like are not happy, I'm happy. It may be petty and childish, but I really don't care. So yeah. Alrighty. We're approaching 3 hours, so I think it's time to wrap up.
Yep.
Alrighty. Hopefully we have Fern next week. I don't know how long his vacation is going to be. He's been pretty incommunicado to me for the last week and a half. So,
Yeah, must be nice to have vacations.
yeah. Well, he's going through a job transition, so he probably needs to reset his brain before his family figures out what they're doing next and what he's going to personally do.
I suppose so.
So, alrighty. We will see you next week, folks. Hopefully with a Fern. Until then, it's been nice having a consistent connection. I may not have to keep a 200 gigabyte local copy of the show from now on. We will see. All right, folks. We'll see you later. Sayonara. Bye bye.